Okay, I'm delighted to say I'm joined today by Brexiteer, former Brexit Party MEP colleague Ben Habib. Ben, how are you?
Very well indeed, thanks, Michael. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Obviously, historic day. I wanted to talk to you because I'd seen you wrote a piece for The Spectator entitled The Problem with
Yeah.
Johnson's Brexit Deal. I want to start, Ben, by asking you overall, what would you give this deal out of 10?
Okay, really good question. I have been at close to zero for the whole process of Brexit this year, pretty much. But actually, I would give this deal about 5 or 6 out of 10. It's a lot better than I had first imagined, though my expectations at zero were low.
Yeah. You say that in the Spectator article. You say Boris Johnson's delivered a deal that I must admit is miles better than I had anticipated. Before we go on to a few what you describe as the good bits, I just want to highlight something that I think has gone slightly under the radar, which you do highlight in your article. You say there's one enormous saving grace, and it's this short clause on page 405 that you were delighted to read. Can you just tell people what's in that?
Well, page 405, which, by the way, I didn't read every single page between 1 and 405 to get there. I did a search for the word termination, and I wanted to check what rights we had as a country to get out of this agreement. Because however awful anything is, if you've got a right to get out, you've got a get out of jail card. And I was flipping through, and a number of termination provisions in the agreement which relate to other things. And then I came to page 405, which just sat there. It's like 2 lines long, and it's stark. And it really jumps out at you. Just either party may terminate this agreement with a capital A, meaning the entire agreement, subject to 12 months' notice. And I thought, okay, wow. So I sent that to a lawyer friend of mine and said, have I understood this correctly? And he came back and said, yeah, absolutely. This agreement can be terminated by either side. And that, for me, is one of the reasons I'm close to 6 out of 10 on the deal, because however awful the deal is, and there's some really bad things in it, we as a country can get out of it without the Article 50 kind of process, which the EU abused for 3.5 years, without having to beg, steal, borrow, whatever else we might need to do to get out. We can, as a sovereign nation, we can just say, that's it, we're off. And for me, that was a huge sigh of relief when I saw that clause on page 405.
Yeah, I just wanted to highlight that, Ben, because I certainly think the sentiment on this channel of Brexiteers is that some people, after the ERG's assessment, again, they highlighted that 12-month notice period. Some of the people here on the channel are quite optimistic about the deal. Others are very downbeat about it, would much have preferred a no-deal, clean break. But you do note, but we will get into your criticisms. But before we get there,
Yeah.
what do you see as the positives in this deal, Ben?
So page 405, that clause we just discussed, is by far the most positive thing that comes out of it. The other huge positive thing is that the European Court of Justice will not have any say over any matters in Great Britain as a result of that new agreement. And I say Great Britain as distinct from United Kingdom, because of course we know that Northern Ireland is still subject to the Northern Irish Protocol, and it's signed up to EU state aid law, VAT, excise duty, and the ECJ has a very dominant role actually in Northern Ireland. So we can't say as a country we're free of the European Court of Justice, but Great Britain at least is entirely free. And that, if we can build on that, then we should be able to extricate Northern Ireland in due course. It's one hell of an uphill struggle, by the way, I think. The legal framework will be against us. But I think it's terrific that we've escaped the ECJ. So that's another big tick. And I think really my ticks kind of end there. We have got the right for free trade, but that, the zero tariff, zero quota free trade, which many people in the UK trumpet as a good thing, I see that as a bad thing. It mostly favors German exporters and to some extent French, wine exporters. We run a huge deficit, as you know, Michael, with the European Union, about £100 billion a year. And I was in favor of imposing tariffs. So this kind of zero tariff, zero quota deal, I just don't see that as a big advantage. I see that as a disadvantage for the UK right now. But the big advantages are the ability to get out. So the biggest advantage of this deal is the ability to get out of it. Okay. And which kind of tells you what I think about the deal. And then the second biggest, advantage is that the ECJ is not going to be having its sway over us.
Okay, now on to your criticisms. You list fisheries as what you describe as the big sellout. What's your view on that, Ben?
Well, the fisheries undoubtedly is the biggest sellout. And let me be clear on a few things that it seems weren't made clear in the Commons today when they had the debate. The first is that the transitionary period is not really a transition towards complete sovereign control of our waters. The transitionary period sets out a series of increments in British total allowable catch between 2021 and 2026. But the total allowable catch that the EU can have thereafter is set in stone. That last year, there's a table on page 800 and something, which sets out how these catches work. And what it says in the last column effectively is meant to bind the UK and the European Union in perpetuity. It says 2026 onwards, and the key is obviously in the use of the word onward. And the only way we can deviate away from the catch to which the EU would be entitled is either by breaching the agreement, for which there are very severe consequences for the UK, or by negotiation through a committee that will principally use science and socio-economic impact of a deviation from the quotas to determine whether there should be an adjustment. So we will not get sovereign control of our waters ever under this agreement. We could breach a specific agreement that we've got on fisheries, and then the EU would have an immediate right of retaliation, and it could do a number of things. It could terminate our rights to fly over Europe, our right for our haulage trucks to go in and out of Europe. It could terminate the free trade agreement that the free trade, zero tariff, zero quota agreement that we have. And it could also levy tariffs on us, on the fish that we're catching beyond what we should be entitled to under that table on page 890 something. So the notion that we get full sovereign control of our waters in 2026 is completely wrong. We are fixed into these quotas until then, and we can then only deviate through negotiation if we're to adhere to the terms of the agreement. And there are very severe penalties on us if we do anything unilateral. It's quite complex, it's hidden in the detail, but it's very important to understand that, because when Frost and Boris Johnson are banging the drum saying, well, it's only a transitionary period, it's not right, that's wrong. They have undoubtedly sold British fishing down the drain in perpetuity, unless and until this agreement is terminated, which brings me back to page 405 again.
If you had to set out the biggest opportunity from this deal, and then aside from fisheries, the biggest obstacle to Brexit freedom arising from this deal, what would they be? What would be your biggest plus, your biggest negative beyond fishing?
Well, the biggest plus, sorry to go on about it, but the biggest plus is the ability to get out of the deal. There's nothing, but we're such a big, important part of Europe's trade that we didn't really need this deal. Our political class has had a complete heart attack of self-confidence, and that's why they've rushed to do a free trade agreement. We didn't need to do it. We could have left on WTO terms. It would have required a bit of planning, but it would have been exactly the right way to go, and we would have been able to rebalance our trading relationship with the EU in a way that we now can't do. With the zero tariff, zero quota thing, actually it suits them. They get to sell us more goods than we sell them. So there's really nothing particularly positive in the agreement other than the assuaging of the fearful contingent in the United Kingdom who don't really believe that the UK can trade as an independent state. And I completely disagree with them. So I don't see many positive things, I'm afraid, Michael. It's only the absence of negativities on occasion that I see as a positive.
Do you see, Ben, a situation arising then where, in your view, the deal's so negative that in years to come, there may be the argument at the ballot box that actually we wish to enact that 12-month notice period to terminate the agreement? Do you see that happening in the years to come, or do you think this deal will be in place for a decade plus before that sort of debate arises.
Yeah. Well, one other thing I'll just say, which is positive, which is that from now on, it's our political class to whom we can hold to account, and they can't point the finger of blame at the EU.
Yeah.
Now, Boris Johnson has not fulfilled his manifesto pledges. Nothing in this agreement gets the UK out of the EU whole as one United Kingdom, because we've left Northern Ireland partly behind. Nothing in this agreement takes control of our fishing waters. Nothing in this agreement gets control of our borders. We've put a border down the Irish Sea, and we've got EU boats coming all the way down to our 6-mile limit, well within our territorial waters. So that's not control of your borders. And we're not taking control of our laws, because even though the ECJ doesn't have sway over Great Britain, it does over Northern Ireland. And we have these kind of non-regression provisions in the level playing field. So he hasn't fulfilled his manifesto pledges, but he still can. He still can fulfill his manifesto pledges. And what Boris Johnson should be doing is what you've just alluded to, which is getting the UK ready to terminate that agreement pursuant to that clause on page 405. And he should now get us absolutely ready for a no deal. And he himself should threaten the triggering of 405. That it's clause 8 actually on clause 8 on 405. He should get the UK ready to make that threat as a proud, strong, ready, prepared country. And if the EU then won't give us a deal that I think is good for us, at that point, he should terminate it. He should terminate the agreement. But if he doesn't get there by 2024, if he shirks his manifesto pledges between now and 2024, which just for the sake of at the risk of repetition, he can still fulfill. He hasn't completely fulfilled them yet. He's down the road towards it. He can do it. But if he doesn't, then I think there will be room, and I think people will emerge who wanted to have that trade agreement terminated, and they've got the ability to do it, and that is such a wonderful thing.
And finally, Ben, to those Brexiteers watching, as I said, some are more optimistic about the deal than others. What is your message to Brexiteers watching this? We've campaigned and fought for Brexit all those years. What's your message to them today?
My message to them is this is a time to celebrate, principally because we no longer have overlords in the European Union and Brussels. Our overlords are now in Westminster. We've got them squarely in our crosshairs. If they don't do what the people deserve, what the country rightly deserves, then we will boot them out. And so I think this is a time to celebrate. It's a time to lay plans for a better and brighter Britain that levels the country up, that gets proper control of fishing, that gets a bright, confident vision of what post-Brexit Britain can be. It's time to lay those plans, and then it's time to communicate them to the government, hold them to account, make sure Boris delivers on his manifesto pledges, and then if he doesn't do it, boot him out in 2024.
Ben Habib, fascinating insight as always. I'm sure we'll speak again soon, my friend. Take care. Ben Habib, thanks for your time today.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you.
Yes.